When Derek Mitchell told his friends she'll beg to come back, he was talking about his pregnant wife Sarah, who he'd just humiliated at New York's most exclusive gala. He'd stolen her money, given her engagement ring to his 24-year-old mistress, and destroyed her reputation on social media. Sarah had nothing left, no home, no income, no hope. But that night, a mysterious text changed everything. "Your jet is ready." Derek thought he'd broken her completely. He had no idea that the woman he'd thrown away was about to become the most powerful person in the room. This is the story of the ultimate comeback and the revenge that destroyed a man who thought he was untouchable. The notification sound from my phone should have been nothing, just another Instagram alert while I folded baby clothes in our sunny nursery. But when I saw Vanessa Claire's story, my world shattered in a single screenshot. There was my engagement ring, the vintage Art Deco diamond that Derek had proposed with 3 years ago, now sparkling on another woman's finger. Vanessa's perfectly manicured hand posed against expensive sheets I didn't recognize, with the caption that made my blood freeze, "When he knows you're the upgrade." I was 7 months pregnant, glowing with the kind of happiness that comes from believing your life is finally falling into place. Derek's tech startup was about to go public. We'd just finished the nursery. My baby shower was planned for next weekend. Everything was perfect. Everything was a lie. My hands trembled as I scrolled through more photos. Derek and Vanessa at restaurants I'd never been to, her wearing my jewelry, him looking at her the way he used to look at me, back when we were broke and dreaming together in our tiny apartment. The nursery door opened and Derek walked in, still in his expensive suit from another late investor meeting. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his smile confident. He looked like the man I'd fallen in love with in college, except now his eyes were cold. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said, not even glancing at the baby clothes in my lap. "I saw the photos." My voice came out smaller than I intended. Derek's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cruel underneath. Then he smiled again, but it wasn't the smile I'd married. "Good. That saves time." He sat down across from me like we were in a business meeting. "I'm filing for divorce. Papers will be served tomorrow." The words hit me like physical blows. "Derek, what are you talking about? I'm pregnant with your child. We're supposed to be—" "You're letting yourself go. Sarah." His voice was matter-of-fact, clinical. "Vanessa makes me feel alive again. She understands ambition. She gets what I'm building." I stared at this stranger wearing my husband's face. "She's an Instagram influencer who takes photos of her breakfast. What exactly does she understand about building anything?" Derek's laugh was sharp. "More than you think. She has 2 million followers. That's influence. That's power. You've been playing house while I've been changing the world." Playing house. The baby kicked hard, as if responding to my rising voice. "I gave up my marketing career to support you. I've been to every investor dinner, every conference, and now I don't need you anymore." He stood up, adjusting his tie. "Vanessa brings value to my brand. You bring complications." The casual cruelty of it stole my breath. 7 years of marriage, dismissed like a failed business venture. "What about our baby?" "My baby," he corrected. "And don't worry. I'll be generous with child support, as long as you don't make this difficult." Something in his tone made warning bells ring in my head. "What do you mean, difficult?" Derek's smile turned predatory. "I mean, you'll sign whatever agreements my lawyers put in front of you. You'll take what I offer, and you'll be grateful for it." That's when I understood. This wasn't just about Vanessa. This was about power. Derek had been planning this, calculating it like one of his business deals. The timing wasn't random. I was vulnerable, pregnant, financially dependent. He thought he had me trapped. And if I don't? I asked, though I was terrified of the answer. Then you'll find out just how difficult life can be for someone with no money, no career, and no options. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Sarah. Don't bother checking our accounts. I've already moved my assets to protect them during the divorce proceedings. Legal, of course. My lawyers are very thorough. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. I sat in the nursery we'd painted together, surrounded by tiny clothes and dreams that were already turning to dust. My phone buzzed with notifications as Vanessa's followers started tagging me in comments. The humiliation was just beginning, but Derek had made one crucial mistake. He thought I was the same scared girl he'd married. He thought pregnancy had made me weak. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The attack came at dawn, coordinated like a military strike. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop with notifications. Hundreds of them. My Instagram mentions were exploding, my Facebook Messenger was flooded, and Twitter was lighting up with a hashtag I'd never seen before. Pathetic X. Vanessa had gone live. I clicked on her Instagram story with shaking fingers, still in my pajamas, my pregnant belly making it hard to sit up in bed. There she was, perfectly made up at 6 a.m, sitting in what looked like Derek's penthouse office. "Good morning, beautiful souls," she said to her camera, her voice sickeningly sweet. I didn't want to do this, but I feel like I need to protect myself and Derek from some really toxic behavior. My blood turned to ice. Some women just can't accept when it's over. You know, she held up her phone, showing screenshots of text messages. She's been stalking us, sending these desperate messages, trying to ruin Derek's IPO announcement. It's honestly really sad. The messages on her screen were real texts I'd sent Derek asking him to come home, to talk, to work things out. But displayed like this, with Vanessa's commentary, they looked pathetic, desperate, exactly as she intended. I mean, I get it, Vanessa continued, her fake sympathy making me nauseous. She's pregnant and emotional, but this isn't healthy for anyone. Derek's been trying to handle this privately, but she won't stop. The comments were rolling in fast, too fast to read, but I caught glimpses. She looks crazy. Some women have no dignity. Derek dodged a bullet. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. This was character assassination, broadcast live to 2 million people. Then Derek appeared in the frame, looking tired and stressed, playing his part perfectly. "I just want what's best for everyone," he said, his voice heavy with fake concern. "Especially for the baby. Sarah's been under a lot of stress lately, and I'm worried about her mental state." Mental state. The words hit me like a slap. He was setting me up, creating a narrative where I was the unstable ex who couldn't handle rejection. Vanessa nodded sympathetically. "We're both praying for her to get the help she needs. This kind of behavior, it's not normal." The live stream ended, but the damage was done. Within an hour, clips were everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube reaction videos. The story was spreading faster than I could track it. My phone rang. Maya Rodriguez, my best friend since college, and one of the city's top divorce attorneys. "Sarah, what the hell is happening? My assistant just showed me some insane video. Maya, I need help." The words came out in a rush. "Derek's leaving me. He's been planning this. He's already moved all our money, and now his girlfriend is destroying me online. Slow down. I'm coming over. Don't say anything else to anyone. Don't post anything. Don't respond to messages. I'll be there in 20 minutes. but the vultures were already circling. My doorman called to say reporters were in the lobby. My email was flooding with interview requests, most of them clearly expecting me to confirm Vanessa's narrative about my supposed breakdown. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, 7 months pregnant, exhausted, wearing Derek's old college t-shirt. I looked exactly like what Vanessa had painted me as, a woman who'd let herself go, who couldn't compete with someone younger and prettier. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the video. You should be ashamed. Your husband deserves better. Then another, crazy bore. No wonder he left you. And another, get some therapy and leave that poor man alone. The messages kept coming. Strangers who'd never met me, never heard my side of the story, all convinced they knew everything from a 15-minute Instagram live stream. I sank down on my bathroom floor and cried until there were no tears left. Then I got angry. Derek thought he could bury me with shame and social media mob justice. He thought I'd quietly disappear, take whatever scraps he offered, and let him rewrite our history. He thought wrong. When Maya arrived, she found me at my laptop, screenshots and financial documents spread across the dining room table. Tell me everything, she said, settling into the chair across from me. And I mean everything. Because if Derek thinks he can manipulate the narrative this easily, he's about to learn why I've never lost a custody case. Outside, I could hear the buzz of reporters and cameras. Inside, I was preparing for war. Derek had fired the first shot. Now it was my turn. Maya's face went pale as she read through the prenuptial agreement Derek's lawyers had delivered that morning. Sarah, tell me you remember signing this. I stared at the document, my signature clearly visible at the bottom, but my memory was frustratingly blank. We talked about a prenup early on, but Derek said we didn't need one, that it would be insulting to our love. This is dated 2 years ago, April 15th. Maya's voice was deadly quiet. Your anniversary. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The wine tasting. Derek surprised me with that private vineyard tour for our anniversary. We drank so much. I was completely wasted. He said there were some business papers he needed me to sign for tax purposes. And you signed without reading. I trusted him. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. I was drunk and happy, and I trusted my husband. Maya set the papers down carefully. Sarah, this prenup is ironclad. If it holds up in court, you walk away with almost nothing. No alimony, no claim to his business assets, and minimal child support. My hands instinctively went to my belly. He planned this, even 2 years ago. He was already planning to leave me. It gets worse. Maya pulled out another document. He's filed for emergency temporary custody, claiming you're mentally unstable and a danger to the unborn child. He's using yesterday's social media meltdown as evidence. The room started spinning. What social media meltdown? Maya showed me her phone. Someone had screenshotted my Instagram stories from last night, posts I didn't remember making, photos of me crying, rambling captions about Derek's betrayal, desperate messages begging him to come home. I didn't post these. I was asleep by 9. I was exhausted and I stopped. My phone. Derek has access to my accounts. We shared passwords for everything. Can you prove that maybe? But even as I said it, I knew how it would look. A desperate ex-wife claiming her husband framed her online. Who would believe that Maya's phone rang? She answered with her lawyer voice, crisp and professional. Rodriguez Law. Yes, she's my client. No, she will not be making any statements at this time. She hung up and immediately dialed another number. I need an emergency appointment with Judge Morrison. Yes, it's urgent. Temporary custody matter. While Maya made calls, I scrolled through the comments on the fake posts. Thousands of them, each one more vicious than the last. Crazy pregnant lady. Poor baby, having a psycho mom. Derek should run and never look back. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. I saw your posts last night. This is exactly why I'm concerned about your mental health. The baby deserves better than this instability. I screenshot the message and showed Maya. He's gaslighting me, creating evidence of my supposed breakdown. We'll prove it, Maya said, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. Digital forensics can trace when and where posts were made. That'll take weeks. What happens to my baby in the meantime? Before Maya could answer, my doorman called. Mrs. Mitchell, there's a process server here with papers for you. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for tomorrow morning. Derek was moving fast, using his legal team to overwhelm me before I could mount a proper defense. But Maya wasn't just any lawyer. She'd built her reputation destroying men who thought they could use the legal system to abuse their wives. Here's what we're going to do, she said, spreading documents across my table. I've been investigating Derek's finances since you called. He's not as smart as he thinks he is. She pulled out bank statements, credit reports, business filings. These asset transfers he made, some of them are fraudulent. He moved money into accounts controlled by Vanessa's company. Yes, she has a company. Mostly shell corporations, but still. He's been funneling marital assets to his girlfriend. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. That's illegal, right? Very illegal. But Sarah, we need to be realistic about tomorrow. Derek's lawyers are going to paint you as an unstable woman who's lost touch with reality. They have the prenup, they have the social media posts, and they have Vanessa's testimony about your alleged harassment. So, what chance do I have? Maya's smile was sharp as a blade. Better than Derek thinks, because while he was busy playing games with social media, I was talking to Tyler. Tyler. Derek's 16-year-old son from his first marriage, who'd been living with us part-time for the past year. Tyler contacted me this morning. He has something Derek doesn't know about, something that's going to blow this whole case wide open. My heart started racing. What kind of something? The kind that proves Derek's been planning this for months. The kind that shows premeditation, financial fraud, and conspiracy. Maya started packing up her papers. Tyler's testifying tomorrow. And Sarah, yeah, when we're done with Derek, he's going to wish he'd just been honest about wanting a divorce. Outside, the reporters were still waiting. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't afraid of them. Let them take their pictures. Let them write their stories. Tomorrow, the truth would come out, and Derek was about to learn that I wasn't the helpless victim he thought I was. The courthouse steps were lined with cameras, all focused on Derek and Vanessa's grand entrance. She wore a conservative dress that screamed, "Supportive girlfriend," while Derek looked every inch the concerned father in his perfectly tailored suit. I sat in Maya's car, watching them pose for photos, answering questions with practiced sound bites about mental health awareness and protecting children from unstable environments. Ready? Maya asked, checking her briefcase one final time. No, I admitted. But let's do this anyway. The gauntlet of reporters was worse than I'd imagined. Questions shouted from every direction. Sarah, are you seeking help for your mental health issues? Do you think the baby is better off with Derek? Maya guided me through the crowd, whispering, "Don't react. Don't engage. Just keep walking." Inside, Derek's legal team had assembled like an army. 3 lawyers in expensive suits, tablets and documents spread across their table. Maya and I sat at our table alone. David versus Goliath. Judge Morrison was a stern woman in her 60s with a reputation for seeing through bullshit. I hoped that reputation was accurate. Derek's lead attorney opened with a theatrical presentation about protecting unborn children from maternal instability. He displayed my supposed Instagram posts on a large screen, each one more embarrassing than the last. Your Honor, we have clear evidence of Mrs. Mitchell's deteriorating mental state. These posts show a woman who has lost touch with reality, making wild accusations and exhibiting behavior that poses a clear danger to their unborn child. He played audio from Vanessa's live stream, carefully edited to make me sound exactly like what they claimed a desperate, unstable woman who couldn't accept reality. Vanessa took the stand wearing an outfit that managed to be both stylish and demure. She spoke in soft, concerned tones about my alleged erratic behavior. She would show up at restaurants where Derek and I were having business dinners. Vanessa testified. She'd sit at the bar, staring at us, sometimes crying. It was honestly terrifying. It was all lies, but she was a masterful performer. When Maya cross-examined, I held my breath. Miss Claire, do you have any proof of this stalking photos, receipts, witness statements? Well, no, but do you have any actual proof of threats or stalking? No, but that doesn't mean thank you. That's all. Derek took the stand next, playing the concerned husband perfectly. I love Sarah, but love sometimes means making difficult decisions. I can't let my child be put at risk because I'm afraid to face the truth about my wife's condition. Then Maya stood up for cross-examination, and Derek's confidence faltered. Mr. Mitchell, while you claim you were concerned about your wife's mental health, you were simultaneously planning to leave her. Correct, Derek's lawyer objected, but Judge Morrison allowed the question. I was trying to save our marriage, Derek said. By moving assets to accounts controlled by your girlfriend. The courtroom went silent. Derek's face went pale. Maya walked to her table and picked up a thick folder. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce evidence of systematic asset transfer from joint marital accounts to accounts controlled by Miss Claire's business entities, beginning 8 months ago. What followed was a systematic dismantling of Derek's narrative. Maya presented bank records showing gradual fund transfers, email communications between Derek and Vanessa about their future plans, and receipts for jewelry and trips Derek had claimed were business expenses. But the real bombshell came when Maya called Tyler to the stand. Derek's 16-year-old son looked nervous but determined. I recorded my dad talking to Vanessa about Sarah, Tyler said quietly. He said the pregnancy was perfect timing because it would make Sarah desperate and easier to control. Maya played the recording, Derek's voice, clear and unmistakable. She'll come crawling back when the baby comes. Then I'll have total control. Women like Sarah break when you take away their security. The silence was deafening. Derek looked like he might be sick. Judge Morrison's voice was ice cold. I've heard enough. Not only am I denying the request for emergency custody, I'm ordering an immediate investigation into the financial irregularities presented here today. Mr. Mitchell, you are prohibited from any further asset transfers. She turned to Derek directly. Sir, if even half of what I've heard today is true, you have seriously misjudged both your wife and this court. As we left the courthouse, the same reporters who'd been sympathetic to Derek were now shouting different questions. Derek, any comment on the fraud allegations? Vanessa, did you help steal from a pregnant woman? For the first time in weeks, I held my head high. I'd won the first battle, but the war was far from over. The recording of Tyler's testimony hit social media like a nuclear bomb within hours of leaving the courthouse. Justice for Sarah was trending nationwide. The same platforms that had crucified me were now turning their attention to Derek and Vanessa with a vengeance that was both terrifying and satisfying to watch. TikTok investigators dissected every Instagram post Vanessa had ever made, finding inconsistencies in her timeline and evidence of her coordinated attacks on me. Twitter threads documented Derek's financial manipulations. Reddit communities dedicated entire forums to analyzing the case. The internet loves nothing more than a good redemption story, and I'd apparently become the protagonist in theirs. Maya and I watched the chaos unfold from her office, monitoring news coverage and social media reactions. The narrative had completely flipped. Derek, who'd looked so confident and sympathetic just hours earlier, was now being called a sociopathic financial abuser. Vanessa had lost 50,000 followers in a single day. "This is better than I hoped for," Maya said, scrolling through headlines. "Public opinion can't decide legal cases, but it sure doesn't hurt to have it on our side." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're stronger than you know. Keep fighting, Jay." I showed Maya the message. "Who's Jay?" "Probably just a supporter. You're getting thousands of messages." But something in Maya's expression suggested she knew more than she was saying. The next morning brought a development none of us had expected. Derek's company, Mitchell Tech, was facing a full SEC investigation into financial irregularities. His IPO had been suspended indefinitely. Investors were pulling out. The business he'd built his identity around was crumbling faster than our marriage had. Vanessa, meanwhile, was desperately trying to save her own brand. She posted a tearful Instagram video claiming she'd been manipulated by Derek, that she'd had no idea about his financial crimes, that she was just a young woman who got caught up in something bigger than herself. The comments section was brutal. "You literally live-streamed yourself destroying a pregnant woman. Take accountability for once in your life. Crocodile tears won't save you now." But while Derek's professional life imploded, he was getting more dangerous personally. Maya's phone rang with a call from courthouse security. "Ms. Rodriguez, we need to inform you that Derek Mitchell attempted to access sealed court records this morning. When he was denied, he became belligerent and had to be escorted from the building." After hanging up, Maya's expression was grim. "Sarah, I'm arranging security for you. Derek's showing signs of escalation. Men like him don't handle losing control well." That afternoon, I received another anonymous text. "Your safety is our priority. Trust the process. Jay." This time, I demanded answers. "Maya, who is Jay, and don't tell me it's just a random supporter." Maya sighed and closed her laptop. "James Cooper. He's been following your case." The name meant nothing to me. "Who's James Cooper?" "Billionaire tech investor. He's the one who tipped off the SEC about Derek's irregularities. He's also the one funding your security detail." I stared at her. "Why would a billionaire I've never met care about my divorce case?" "Because you have met him. College. You dated him briefly before you got together with Derek." The memory came flooding back. James Cooper. Quiet, brilliant James from my advanced economics class. We dated for about 2 months during my junior year. He was sweet and incredibly smart. But Derek had swept me off my feet with his confidence and ambition. I'd broken up with James gently, and he'd taken it well. I hadn't thought about him in years. "He's been watching Derek's company for months," Maya continued. "Apparently, Derek tried to poach several of James's key employees with offers that seemed too good to be true. When James investigated, he found evidence of financial instability. He was already building a case against Derek when our situation exploded publicly. So this is what revenge justice. I don't understand his motivation. Does it matter he's on our side? He has unlimited resources, and Derek has no idea what's coming. My phone rang. Unknown number, but Maya nodded for me to answer. Sarah, this is James Cooper. His voice was older, but unmistakably the same. Calm, thoughtful, with just a hint of the warmth I remembered. James, Maya told me you've been helping. I hope you don't mind. I know this might seem strange, but when I saw what Derek was doing to you, I couldn't stand by and watch. Why? The question came out more bluntly than I intended. James was quiet for a moment. Because I've spent the last 15 years building companies and making money, and none of it has meant as much to me as the 2 months I spent falling in love with you in college. When I saw you being destroyed by someone who never deserved you, I decided my resources might finally be useful for something that mattered. I felt tears welling up, but they weren't tears of sadness. For the first time in months, someone was protecting me instead of attacking me. James, you don't owe me anything. Sarah, no explanations, no gratitude, no promises. I just want you and your baby to be safe and to get the justice you deserve. That evening, Derek's lawyer called Maya with a settlement offer. Derek would agree to reasonable alimony and child support, drop the mental health claims, and submit to financial transparency in exchange for my silence about the fraud allegations. Maya and I looked at each other across her desk. A week ago, I would have taken anything he offered just to make the nightmare stop. Counter offer, I told Maya. He admits to the fraud publicly, returns every stolen penny with interest, submits to a full financial audit, and agrees to supervised visitation only until our child is 18. Maya grinned. I'll add a non-disparagement clause. He can never speak about you publicly again. And Vanessa. What about her? I want a restraining order. She stays away from me, my child, and my social media accounts. Forever. As Maya drafted our response, I thought about the woman I'd been just a week ago, scared, humiliated, alone. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. Derek had taught me that marriage could be war. James was teaching me that I didn't have to fight alone, and I was just getting started. The eviction notice arrived on a Tuesday morning, taped to my apartment door like a scarlet letter for all the neighbors to see. 30 days, Maya read, scanning the legal document. Derek's lawyers found a loophole. The lease was in his name only, and he's terminated it. I sank into my kitchen chair, the baby kicking frantically as my stress levels spiked. Can he do that? Legally, yes. Ethically. It's another clear sign of his escalating abuse. Maya's jaw was tight with anger. He's trying to make you homeless while you're pregnant. It's psychological warfare. The timing wasn't coincidental. Derek's criminal investigation was intensifying. His company was in free fall, and he was lashing out like a cornered animal. That afternoon, while I was packing, my phone exploded with notifications. Vanessa had posted a new video, standing outside my apartment building with her camera trained on the moving boxes visible through my window. So, I guess the eviction rumors are true, she said to her followers, voice dripping with fake concern. I know I shouldn't be here, but I'm honestly worried about this woman. The camera panned to show protesters Derek's team had hired, carrying signs reading, "Justice for Derek," and "Stop the false accusations." Counter-protesters had arrived too, creating an angry, divided crowd. Maya arrived with courthouse security just as shouting matches erupted between the groups. "We need to get you out of here now," she said, grabbing my arm. But as we headed for her car, a reporter shoved a microphone in my face. Sarah Mitchell, Rebecca Thompson, Channel 7 News. Any comment on allegations that you've been faking your pregnancy to gain sympathy? The question hit me like a physical blow. I'm sorry. What? Sources close to Derek Mitchell are claiming your pregnancy is either fake or that you're intentionally trying to induce early labor to interfere with his IPO timeline. I looked down at my very obviously pregnant belly, then back at the reporter. You're asking me if I'm faking being 7 months pregnant. Are you? That's when something inside me snapped. The careful composure I'd maintained, the dignified silence Maya had counseled it all, crumbled. You want to know what's real? I said, my voice rising. Real is my husband emptying our bank accounts while I was picking out baby clothes. Real is him giving my engagement ring to his girlfriend and posting it on Instagram. Real is him fabricating social media posts to make me look unstable, then using those fake posts to try to take custody of our unborn child. The reporter's eyes lit up. This was the breakdown she'd been hoping for. Real is having to choose between buying groceries and paying for prenatal care because my husband cut off my health insurance out of spite. So no, Rebecca, I'm not faking my pregnancy, but Derek is definitely faking being a decent human being. Maya tried to pull me away, but I wasn't done. I'm done apologizing for his choices. I'm done being quiet while he destroys my reputation to cover up his crimes. I'm done pretending this is about mental health when it's actually about financial fraud and systematic abuse. The crowd had gone silent, cameras recording every word. So tell your sources that Sarah Mitchell isn't the same woman he married. She's not scared anymore. She's not alone anymore. And she's definitely not going away quietly. I walked to Maya's car, leaving the stunned reporter behind. Well, Maya said as we drove away, that was either brilliant or catastrophic, possibly both. My phone was already buzzing with clips of my speech spreading across social media. Sarah Speaks was trending within an hour. That evening, James called. I saw the video, he said. How are you feeling? Terrified, I admitted. I lost my temper. I probably made everything worse. You told the truth. Sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can do. The next morning, I met James at a quiet cafe downtown. He looked older than I remembered, more serious, but his eyes were the same kind and intelligent. I have a proposition, he said. I've been investigating Derek's company for months, and I'm about to make a move that will finish what the SEC started. I'm buying his debt, all of it. When I call it in, Mitchell Tech will collapse completely. I stared at him. You can do that. The question is whether you want me to, because once I do this, Derek will lose everything: his company, his penthouse, his reputation, his future earning potential. Why would you do this for me? James reached across the table and gently took my hand. Because 15 years ago, I let the best thing that ever happened to me walk away. I'm not making that mistake twice. For the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of the future. I was ready to fight for it. The first domino fell on a Thursday morning at exactly 9:15 a.m. I was in Maya's office when James called. It's done, he said simply. I've called in Derek's debts, all of them. By noon, financial news networks were reporting that Mitchell Tech was facing immediate bankruptcy. Derek's assets were being frozen, his business partnerships dissolved. The golden boy of Silicon Valley was watching his empire crumble in real time. But Derek's response was swift and vicious. Within hours, Vanessa posted a new video from the steps of a police station. I'm here to file harassment charges against Sarah Mitchell, she announced, voice shaking with manufactured emotion. This coordinated attack on Derek's livelihood is clearly the result of Sarah's obsession with destroying our relationship. She's using her wealthy connections to wage financial warfare against the father of her own child. The narrative was cleverly constructed. I wasn't a victim fighting back anymore. I was a vindictive ex-wife with powerful allies, destroying an innocent man out of jealousy. By Friday morning, Derek had hired a crisis management firm. They launched a coordinated media blitz painting him as the victim of a vindictive conspiracy. The headlines were brutal: tech CEO destroyed by ex-wife's revenge plot. Billionaire's vendetta love triangle destroys innocent man. Derek appeared on 3 different talk shows, perfectly groomed and heartbreakingly sympathetic. He spoke about his concern for my mental health and his shock at how his life had been destroyed by malicious financial manipulation. "I just want my child to be safe," he said on Good Morning America, his voice breaking at exactly the right moment. "If Sarah wants to destroy me, I can live with that. But this baby deserves better." Public opinion began to shift again. A Team Derek started trending. Comments on my social media turned hostile. That's when the medical emergency happened. I was in my hotel room when the cramping started. Sharp, rhythmic pains that sent ice through my veins. "Maya." I gasped into the phone. "Something's wrong. I think it's the baby." At the hospital, doctors confirmed what I dreaded. I was in early labor at 34 weeks, brought on by extreme stress. "We need to stop this labor," Dr. Patterson explained. "Complete bed rest, minimal stress. If we can keep you pregnant for another 3 weeks, your baby's chances improve dramatically." But Derek arrived with a camera crew, claiming his parental right to be at the hospital. The footage of Derek looking concerned while being denied access played on every news channel within hours. "She's using our child's health crisis to manipulate public sympathy," Derek told the cameras. James arrived at midnight, slipping past reporters through a service entrance. He looked tired and angry. "This has to stop," he said quietly. "He's going to kill you with stress if this continues." "I can't fight anymore," I whispered. "I'm so tired." "James, then let me fight for you." James pulled out his phone and showed me a video file. Tyler recorded this 3 days ago. I pressed play and heard Derek's voice. "The pregnancy scare is perfect timing. Makes her look unstable and me look concerned. By the time this is over, I'll have full custody. Vanessa, make sure you get footage of me at the hospital looking worried. The optics are gold." My blood ran cold. Even I hadn't imagined Derek could be that calculated about our baby's health crisis. "Do it," I said. "Release everything. I'm done playing defense." The next morning, while Derek was giving another interview about his wife's dangerous mental state, Tyler's recording hit every major news outlet simultaneously. Derek's carefully constructed narrative crumbled in minutes. Exposed, Derek was trending worldwide. The man who'd spent weeks playing the concerned father was revealed as someone who saw his wife's medical emergency as a public relations opportunity. But Derek wasn't finished. What he did next crossed a line that even I hadn't expected him to cross. Derek's final gambit was the most dangerous yet, and the most desperate. 3 days after Tyler's recording destroyed Derek's public image, I woke up in my hospital bed to find a man in a suit standing by my window. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Detective Rodriguez with the LAPD Financial Crimes Unit. I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with James Cooper." My heart rate monitor started beeping faster. "What kind of questions?" "We've received allegations that you and Mr. Cooper have been engaged in a conspiracy to defraud your husband through false criminal charges and market manipulation." I stared at him. "I'm sorry." What Maya burst through the door, her hair disheveled like she'd run straight from her car. "Don't say another word. Sarah, detective, my client will not be answering questions without proper legal representation and a clear understanding of these charges." "There are no charges yet," Detective Rodriguez said calmly. "But Mr. Mitchell has provided substantial evidence of what appears to be an elaborate revenge plot involving false SEC complaints, fraudulent financial documentation, and conspiracy to manipulate stock prices. Through my window, I could see news vans pulling into the hospital parking lot. Somehow, Derek had timed this perfectly for maximum media exposure. "Detective," Maya said, her voice deadly quiet, "I assume you verified this evidence before showing up to interrogate a woman in premature labor. We're in the preliminary stages of investigation. Then you'll understand why my client has nothing to say until you have something more substantial than the word of a man who's currently under federal investigation for securities fraud." After the detective left, Maya pulled the curtains closed and turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before, pure, calculated rage. "He's trying to flip the script completely," she said. "Make you and James the criminals and himself the victim. It's actually brilliant, in a sociopathic way. Can he do that? Can he make this stick? Depends on what evidence he's manufactured. Derek's been planning this for months. Sarah, the prenup, the social media attacks, the financial moves, it was all leading to this moment." My phone buzzed with a text from James. "Don't panic. This is exactly what we expected. Trust me." Expected. I showed Maya the message. She smiled for the first time in days. "James is about 3 steps ahead of Derek. He's been documenting everything, every conversation, every financial transaction, every piece of evidence Derek's team has tried to manufacture. When Derek accuses him of market manipulation, James will be able to prove every single move was legitimate." And me. How do I prove I'm not part of some conspiracy? By letting James prove that Derek's allegations are fraudulent, which he will, tonight. I didn't understand what Maya meant until I saw the evening news. James had called a press conference, not in some lawyer's office or corporate boardroom, but in the same hospital lobby where Derek had staged his concerned father performance days earlier. He stood at a podium surrounded by reporters, looking calm and confident despite the chaos Derek had unleashed. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to address the serious allegations made against Mrs. Sarah Mitchell and myself. Mr. Mitchell claims we've conspired to destroy his company through false accusations and market manipulation." James paused, letting the cameras focus on him. "Here are the facts. Every SEC complaint filed against Mitchell Tech was based on documented evidence of financial irregularities that predated Mrs. Mitchell's divorce by 18 months. Every debt I called in was legitimately owed and legally enforceable. Every action I took was reviewed by my legal team and found to be completely lawful." He gestured to a table stacked with documents. "What Mr. Mitchell hasn't told you is that his company has been insolvent for over a year. He's been using new investor money to pay existing debts, a classic Ponzi scheme. Mrs. Mitchell had no knowledge of these activities. In fact, she was deliberately kept in the dark about her husband's financial crimes." The reporters were furious with questions, but James held up a hand for silence. "Most importantly, Mr. Mitchell claims that Mrs. Mitchell and I conspired against him out of romantic motivation. Let me be clear. I have not spoken to Mrs. Mitchell in 15 years until 3 weeks ago. Our relationship is purely based on my desire to see justice done and her need for legal protection from an increasingly dangerous individual." He pulled out his phone and held it up to the microphone. "This is a voicemail Mitchell left on my office line yesterday morning." Derek's voice filled the lobby. "Cooper, you bastard. I know you think you've won, but I'll destroy her before I let you have her. I'll make sure she loses everything, the baby. Her reputation, her freedom. She chose you over me 15 years ago, and now you'll both pay for it." The silence was deafening. "Ladies and gentlemen," James said quietly, "this is not the voice of an innocent man defending himself against false accusations. This is the voice of a dangerous individual who sees his wife and child as property to be controlled or destroyed. Within an hour, Derek's allegations had collapsed completely. The detective who'd questioned me called Maya to apologize for the misunderstanding and confirm that no charges would be filed, but Derek's response was swift and terrifying. At 8 p.m., as I was finally relaxing for the first time in days, my phone rang. Unknown number. Sarah. Derek's voice was cold, hollow. You think you've won. Derek, you're not supposed to contact me directly. The restraining order. The restraining order won't matter where I'm going, and neither will your billionaire boyfriend or your smart-ass lawyer. Something in his tone made my blood freeze. Derek, what are you talking about? I built my life around you, my company, my reputation, my future. It was all for us, for our family, and you destroyed it all for revenge. Derek, please, think about the baby. I am thinking about the baby. Our baby deserves better than a mother who destroys her own family out of spite. The line went dead. I immediately called Maya, then James, then hospital security. Within minutes, my room was surrounded by guards and police officers, but Derek had vanished. His penthouse was empty, his car abandoned, his phone turned off. He disappeared completely, and nobody knew what he was planning. For the first time since this nightmare began, I was genuinely afraid for my life and my babies. Derek surfaced 3 days later at the place I least expected my baby shower. Maya had organized a small private gathering in the hospital's family lounge, just a few close friends, some decorations, and cake. After weeks of chaos, she thought I deserved one normal, happy moment before my baby arrived. We were laughing at silly baby gifts when Derek walked through the door. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing the same clothes he'd disappeared in 3 days earlier. But what scared me most was his smile. Calm, serene, like he'd finally found peace with whatever decision he'd made. "Hello, Sarah," he said, as my friends scattered in terror and hospital security rushed toward the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Maya stepped between us. "Derek, leave. Now. You're violating a restraining order, and there are witnesses." "I just want to talk to my wife," Derek said, still smiling that terrifying smile. "About our future." "We don't have a future," I managed to say, despite my heart hammering against my ribs. "Oh, but we do." Derek pulled something from his jacket pocket, a thick manila envelope. "I've been thinking about your press conference, James's revelations, all those recordings Tyler made. Very thorough work." He tossed the envelope on the table between us. "Suicide note," he said conversationally. "Very detailed. Explains how the stress of losing everything drove me to take my own life, but not before ensuring that the people who destroyed me face consequences for their actions." The room went silent except for the sound of security guards talking urgently into their radios. "Derek," I whispered, "please don't do this. Think about the baby." "I am thinking about the baby. Our child deserves to know the truth about what kind of woman their mother really is." He pulled out his phone and held it up. "Recording. For the record, Sarah, I want you to know that everything I did was for our family. The prenup was to protect our assets. The company restructuring was to secure our future. Even Vanessa, she was just a business decision, a way to build the social media presence the company needed. Derek, stop talking. You're incriminating yourself." "I'm past caring about incrimination." His voice was getting louder, more agitated. "You and your boyfriend destroyed everything I built. My company, my reputation, my relationship with my son. You destroyed your relationship with Tyler when you tried to use him in your sick games. Derek's calm facade cracked. I gave that boy everything, a home, a future, opportunities. You gave him a front row seat to watch you abuse women. I never abused you, Derek screamed, and suddenly the rational, controlled man was gone, replaced by something raw and dangerous. I gave you the best years of my life. I made you somebody. You were nothing when I met you. I was enough. I found myself screaming back. 7 months of rage and fear exploding out of me. I was enough exactly as I was. You're the one who wasn't enough. You're the one who needed a trophy girlfriend to feel successful. You're the one who stole money because you couldn't build anything real. Derek's face went white with fury. He started toward me, but Maya grabbed a chair and held it between us. Security, she yelled. Where the hell is security? That's when James appeared in the doorway. Derek, he said quietly. It's over. The FBI is here. They have warrants for your arrest on fraud charges, conspiracy, and harassment. You can come quietly, or this can get ugly. Derek looked between James and me, his eyes wild. You planned this. You set me up. No, James said, stepping into the room with his hands visible. You set yourself up. Every crime you committed, every lie you told, every person you hurt, those were your choices. My choices, Derek laughed, a sound like breaking glass. My choices were limited when my wife decided to team up with my enemy. Sarah is not your wife anymore, James said firmly. She's not your property. She doesn't owe you anything except protection for your child. Our child, Derek corrected. Your child. James agreed. Who deserves better than a father who threatens their mother with suicide and violence? Derek's phone was still recording, capturing every word for posterity. Whatever happened next, there would be no question about who said what. Derek, I said, trying one last time to reach whatever humanity might be left in him. I loved you. For 7 years, I loved you completely. I supported your dreams. I sacrificed my career. I stood by you through every failure and every success. That love was real, even if yours wasn't. His expression softened slightly. But love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean staying silent while you commit crimes. It doesn't mean letting you destroy me to save yourself. Sarah, I'm not your enemy. Derek, I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of being afraid. Tired of watching you hurt everyone who cares about you. Derek looked around the room at Maya ready to fight, at James standing calm and protective, at the security guards finally arriving, at me with my pregnant belly and exhausted eyes. I could have loved you forever, I said quietly. All you had to do was let me. For a moment, something human flickered in Derek's expression. Regret, maybe, or recognition of what he'd thrown away. Then FBI agents filled the doorway, and Derek Mitchell's reign of terror was finally over. He didn't resist arrest, didn't make any dramatic last stands or final proclamations. He just looked at me one last time and said, I hope the baby has your eyes. Then he was gone, led away in handcuffs while reporters outside shouted questions nobody would answer. Maya hugged me carefully, mindful of my belly. It's over, she whispered. It's really over. But I was looking at James, who was standing by the window watching Derek's arrest through the glass. Thank you, I said. He turned and smiled, the first genuine, unguarded smile I'd seen from him since this all began. Thank you for letting me help. Outside, Derek's media circus was collapsing as reality finally caught up with his carefully constructed lies. But inside that hospital room, surrounded by cake and baby gifts and people who actually cared about me, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new home, watching my son sleep in his crib while the city sparkled below us. His name was Michael James Mitchell, after my grandfather and the man who'd helped save us both. He was perfect in every way that mattered, with Derek's dark hair and my stubborn chin, but hopefully none of his father's capacity for cruelty. Derek was serving 7 years in federal prison for fraud, conspiracy, and tax evasion. The judge had been particularly harsh during sentencing, noting that Derek's abuse of his pregnant wife had demonstrated a pattern of calculated cruelty that goes beyond financial crimes into the realm of domestic terrorism. Vanessa had disappeared entirely. Her social media empire collapsed. Her followers moved on to the next influencer scandal. Occasionally, I wondered what happened to her, but mostly I didn't think about her at all. She'd been a symptom of Derek's sickness, not the disease itself. Tyler visited every weekend. At 17, he was thoughtful and kind, determined not to repeat his father's mistakes. He'd given a victim impact statement at Derek's sentencing that left the entire courtroom in tears, a young man's plea for justice and accountability, delivered with maturity beyond his years. My father taught me that power means taking whatever you want, Tyler had told the judge. But Sarah taught me that real strength means protecting the people you love, even when it costs you everything. Maya had been right about public opinion being powerful but unpredictable. The full truth about Derek's crimes and my innocence had eventually emerged, but not before I'd learned that social media justice was often just another form of mob violence. The same people who'd crucified me based on Vanessa's lies later praised my courage, as if they hadn't participated in my public destruction. I'd started a foundation for women experiencing financial abuse, using Derek's seized assets to fund legal aid and emergency housing. The irony wasn't lost on me. Derek's stolen money was now helping other women escape the kind of trap he'd tried to catch me in. But the biggest change in my life was the man currently making ridiculous faces at my son through the nursery window. James and I had moved slowly, carefully. We'd both been burned by love before, and we had a baby to consider. But over months of late-night conversations and quiet dinners, something beautiful had grown between us. He wasn't a rescuer or a savior. I'd saved myself. With help from people who cared about justice, he was a partner, someone who understood that love meant supporting each other's dreams, not controlling them. "How are my 2 favorite people?" James asked, joining me on the balcony with coffee for both of us. "Peaceful," I said, leaning into his warmth. "Finally peaceful. Any regrets?" I considered the question seriously. The past year had been the hardest of my life, but it had also taught me things about myself I never would have learned otherwise. "I regret trusting Derek for so long," I said. "I regret not seeing the signs earlier. I regret that Michael will grow up with a father in prison. And I'm grateful for everything else. For Maya's friendship, for Tyler's courage, for your love, for the chance to rebuild my life on my own terms." James kissed the top of my head. "For what it's worth, I think you were always strong enough to handle anything. You just needed permission to believe it." My phone buzzed with a notification from the Foundation's Instagram account. Another woman had reached out for help. Another story of financial abuse and manipulation. There would always be more women who needed support, more battles to fight. But tonight, I was exactly where I belonged, holding my son, loving a good man, and finally understanding what Derek never had. That true power isn't about controlling others. It's about choosing your own life. Derek had said I'd beg to come back. Instead, I'd learned to bet on myself, and I'd won everything that mattered. The city lights twinkled below us, full of promise and possibility. Michael stirred in his sleep, dreaming whatever dreams babies dream. James's arm was warm around my shoulders. Somewhere in a federal prison, Derek was probably planning his appeal, still convinced that he was the victim of some grand conspiracy. He'd never understand that his real crime wasn't fraud or theft. It was believing that love could be owned, controlled, or destroyed. But love, real love, is indestructible. It survives betrayal, grows stronger under pressure, and creates space for everyone to become their best selves. As I watched my son sleep, I made him a promise he would grow up knowing that love is partnership, not possession, that strength is kindness, not cruelty, that success is building others up, not tearing them down. Derek had taught me what love isn't. James was teaching me what it could be, and Michael would learn what it should be. The story that began with my humiliation in a ballroom had ended with my triumph in a courtroom. But the best chapter, the one where I raised my son surrounded by people who actually loved us, was just beginning. Some stories end with revenge, the best ones end with redemption, and mine was just getting started. If Sarah's transformation inspired you to bet on yourself instead of begging others to stay, smash that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more incredible tales of people who turned their darkest moments into their greatest victories. Your support helps us bring these powerful stories to light.
Thanks for watching.